Evening, everyone, and welcome to Macquarie University's Postgraduate Showcase for Linguistics. My name is Sienna, and I'm a current Macquarie University student and student ambassador. I'll be your host for this evening. Before we start the session, I would like to acknowledge the First Nations peoples of Australia and elders past, present, and emerging. I would also like to extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander guests in the audience today. As we allow some time for our attendees to join us online, we'll run through some housekeeping for this webinar. Please note that participant cameras and microphones have been muted to maximise the webinar experience. Please ask your questions throughout the session via the Q&A function at the bottom of your toolbar. We will endeavour to answer these at the end of each session. Welcome to Macquarie University's Postgraduate Showcase for Linguistics. My name is Sienna and I'm a current Macquarie University student and student ambassador. In tonight's session, you will hear from academic experts from the Graduate Certificate of Editing and Electronic Publishing, Master of Applied Linguistics and TESOL, Graduate Certificate of TESOL, Master of Translation and Interpreting Studies, and Master of Conference Interpreting. They will give you the insight into the Macquarie benefits, what you will learn, and you'll also have a chance to get your questions answered tonight. To kick off the session, I am pleased to introduce our speaker for the first session, Dr. Adam Smith, who is the Course Director of our Graduate Certificate of Editing and Electronic Publishing. Adam, welcome.
Hello, thanks, Sienna.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I shall share my slides.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the session.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Yes, so as Sienna has said, I'm the convener of the Graduate Certificate of Editing and Electronic Publishing here at Macquarie. Here are the topics I'm going to cover today. So I'm going to talk briefly about the kind of challenges that editors face today, take you through the course structure and content, think a little bit about why you might want to choose Macquarie to study this particular subject at, and I'm going to introduce you to some of our students. Unfortunately, not in person. I was actually hoping to have one of our alumni joining us tonight, but they're all too busy working, I think, so they couldn't join us. But the fact that they're working is a good thing. So, first of all, what kind of challenges do editors face today, and how can we help to address them? So, as you're probably very aware, publishing is a very changing kind of industry at the moment, with all the new media that are coming into it. So one of the great challenges for editors is to adapt to new media and to different modes of publishing. Going alongside that fast-paced change in publishing is a huge amount of new content that comes in all the time. And so editors constantly face the challenge of having to maintain editorial standards while dealing with the fast-paced demand for new content. And also, with the arrival of new technologies, we're increasingly trying to communicate with larger audiences and more diverse audiences, so we have to think about how we manage that. And we're also working within a market where it's not just the traditional publishers who publish things, so it's not just about newspaper publishers or book publishers. All kinds of people now publish things. So, to deal with the first challenge, our course helps you to investigate the demands of multiple types of publication, both across print and digital publications, and provides tasks addressing how to deal with those. We give students the tools to recognize issues with language and layout so they can adapt and use them swiftly and efficiently. We provide knowledge and practice on how to cater to the needs and expectations of different audiences. And in particular, we do look at language use across the globe, and we don't treat the English language as one kind of standard thing that has the same standards wherever it's used. We appreciate very clearly that it's something that shifts as it moves to different audiences. And in particular, looking at how we can help our students work within a market where it's not just publishers. We look at how the industry works, and we look particularly at things like project management and how you might adapt your work to become a freelancer, which is kind of a standard way of working as an editor these days. Moving on to the course structure and the subjects. And so obviously we run over 2 semesters, and you can start in either semester. So we have a kind of an introductory unit in each semester. In semester 1, that unit is Edit 8080, Tools for Editing, where we take you through the kind of the basic tools that an editor needs So things like copy editing, proofreading, working both online and in print. And we also look more diversely at issues around global English and plain English, so issues around communication there. The more kind of involved unit there, I would say, in this first semester is Edit 8282, and that looks at particularly issues around different kind of delivery modes for publishing, looking at information structuring, navigation online, and then things like indexing, both in print and online, and the important issue of project management as well. In semester 2, the kind of introductory unit is communication, publishing, and editing. And there we look at the history of publishing and how it's changed over the ages. We look at different modes again of publishing and look at very quite surprising areas where editors work, for example, in museum signage or captions for movies and TV programs. And finally, Edit 8281. Language, writing, and editing, which is the most kind of linguistic-y subject that we do. So you're looking at things like grammar and punctuation, cohesion, readability, and we give you some background on how to make judgments about language use there if you don't have a linguistic background. We have a range of different kinds of assignments. So we have weekly quizzes that kind of test you on your weekly readings. We have group discussions that are assessed. Group project work, we think it's very important for you to get the chance to work together in groups because that's what editors have to do. They have to work as part of a team. Practical editing tasks and essays as well. The course delivery is all online. It consists of short weekly lectures with lecture notes, some readings, and some practical activities. So a whole range of things that you're doing, but they're all online. So why would you want to study particularly at Macquarie University? This particular topic, you can do it in a variety of different institutions. One of the things that I've focused on so far is that it's completely online, this particular course. So everything can be completed in your own time, and it can be done part-time or full-time. So a lot of people find who are doing this course, they're already working, so they might find it too hard to do 2 units per semester. So you can just do one unit per semester and complete it over 2 years. We've got a lot of experience in this subject. We're actually the oldest university level course in Australia in this particular topic. I actually studied this course myself back in 2000. I graduated from it. And Pam Peters, who you might have heard of, she's written some very famous usage books, was the person who started it up, and I studied under her and still use her as a consultant on this course. Because it's set in a linguistics department, which a lot of these kind of courses aren't, we've got a very solid kind of academic discipline behind us that gives you a good solid basis for language-based skills. And it also provides opportunities for professional networking. We have strong connections with IPED, the Institute for Professional Editors, both in Australia and New Zealand. So that gives us good connections there. And a lot of our students go on to complete the accreditation that IPED runs, which gives you a further feather in your cap when you go out to work as an editor. So the previous students I'd like to introduce to you. And I just wanted to introduce to you a selection of people who have come through our course with different kinds of experiences and different kind of requirements from the course. And so first of all, I'll present Rochelle, who came to us. She had some publishing experience, but found that the industry offered little training. So she wanted to come to us to get that kind of formal training in the art of editing. After she graduated, she worked for several years for HarperCollins in various roles, and she's now working as a literary agent. So Rochelle had a kind of quite a traditional relationship with the publishing industry, you might say. Then Nigel, who was and actually still is a librarian at the Parliamentary Library in Canberra. And he joined us because he was wanting to kind of extend his skills, supplement the kind of the work that he does as well. And so it's useful for his work as a librarian, what he's learned, but he's also doing various freelance work. He's an IPED accredited editor, as I noted before. He took the exam after he'd done the course and became accredited. He's also spoken at the industry conference, and his main focus in editing is he edits academic theses. So he's got quite an academic take on all of it. Actually, he's going to be co-writing a paper for an academic book that I'm putting together, so with me. So you know, he's gone in the academic direction. And then our most recent student, Monique, who came to us with no editing experience at all. So she worked previously in teaching and healthcare, but she did very well in the course. She got shortlisted for the iPad Essay Prize, which is a national prize that the Editors Institute runs. She's been selected for editing internship, and she's interviewing at the moment for various web content officers roles. She's told me she only graduated last year, but she's actually really enjoying doing the freelance side of it. So she's not sure if she really wants to get tied down in a full-time job, and really enjoys the freedom of being able to work freelance. So that's the basic information that I wanted to give you. You can find more information out there on our course finder pages, and you're also very, very welcome to email me if you'd like to. I'd like to stop there, and if there are any questions, I'd like to go to those.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adam, for a great introduction to the course. As you said, we'll now open the session for an audience Q&A. If any questions did come up for you during that session, you are welcome to put those in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We've had one come through already. So Adam, is the Graduate Certificate of Editing and Electronic Publishing ideal for students without work experience or previous studies in this area?
Well, sorry, without work experience?
Or previous study in the area.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so once upon a time, we kind of designed it as specifically a course for people who had a little bit of editing experience at least, and wanted to kind of formalize the knowledge and the experience that they had. But we have extended that approach now, and hence we've got particularly the Edit 6000 topic, which gives you a nice broad background there. So no previous experience is actually expected. But what we find is a lot of people, even though they think they don't have experience, actually do. So all kinds of work that you do, whether it be editing your own essays for submission to academic subjects, or it might be you've kind of worked on little newsletters for associations, maybe for a parent-teacher association with school, or a society you might be a member of. So people often have editing experience, even though they don't think about it. It's so ubiquitous, and that's kind of a good reason also why you should try and do a course as well, because you perhaps even as I mentioned with Rochelle, you know, someone who's worked in the publishing industry really didn't feel that she had all the knowledge that she needed to progress her career. And we actually have a student at the moment who is the editor of the Macquarie Lighthouse, and so she's a very, very experienced journalist, but she felt again that she needed to formalize her knowledge of editing. So people come to us from all kinds of different backgrounds, different levels of experience, and they all find the course useful in some way.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess the answer being that if you have an interest in it, why not? Because the option is there. You don't necessarily need to come from that background, but you probably do have some experience that you're not even aware of.
Yeah, you probably do have experience, but it isn't necessary if you have none at all. You're very welcome to.
For sure. Fabulous. Another question that we've had come through is the publishing industry has gone through remarkable changes in the past couple of years. So what are your views on upcoming career trends for future digital publishers and editors?
Well, I mean, the publishing industry has been going through change for a long time, and I think for a long time it has kind of resisted that change as well. As you think also the music industry were very resistant to kind of digital change, and felt that it was going to undermine its industry. But I think in more recent times, the publishing industry has kind of embraced the changes that are happening with digital innovations, and so there's lots and lots of kind of exciting possibilities, working in different kind of media platforms, working in ebooks, working with and you might not just be working with text anymore. You'll be working a lot more with kind of maybe audio material with graphic material, and so the whole industry has really expanded it in ways that probably we can't predict. I think people worry a little bit also about new AI technology that might be undermining the way that people are producing texts or indeed graphics as well. But in fact, I can see great possibilities there that it might actually add to the way that we consume and create publications. So that it's impossible to predict, I think, what's going to happen with the industry, but clearly we can't rely on the kind of traditional jobs that you'll go into a particular book publisher or newspaper publisher and be trained as a cadet and keep that job for your whole life. That doesn't happen anymore. So you have to be kind of prepared to be agile and develop skills that will allow you to work in different contexts and often under your own steam. So one of the actual opportunities that I think a career in editing gives you is that portability. So many people since COVID have been moving out of the cities and trying to kind of reinvent themselves in industries where they don't have to be in a city environment. And editing's a great kind of skill to have for that, because you can really do that anywhere. You don't have to be kind of going to an office every day to do your editing. It can all be done remotely as the courses, and so that kind of gives you practice in doing that as well. So I think it's certainly an expanding industry and an industry that's going to change and adapt in the future as well.
For sure. And I think being a student kind of in a similar faculty as well, the best thing about being a student at Macquarie is that even though that industry may be changing very quickly, all of our courses end up being co-designed with industry so that you're prepared for those and prepared to be agile, as you were saying as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true.
I think one of the things you said about AI may have sparked one of our attendees' interests. We've had one come in that says, what do you see the career opportunities being within this area if you're inexperienced and there's heaps of freelancers out there? And how do you specifically see AI's role, and how will AI disrupt the industry?
How will it disrupt the industry? Okay, well, I mean, that's a bit of a negative take on it. I don't necessarily see that it will disrupt it. I mean, the way that we're trying to respond to AI here is to think about opportunities, about what it can do, what it's good at, and kind of worries about, will it kind of get in the way of that replace people's creative processes and so on. I don't think it necessarily. I don't think it will. I think it can be used for some of these kind of very automated processes that people don't like having to create certain types of text. So you think of things like business reports, where these things, it would open a lot of opportunities up, I think, for people to spend time on things that are more productive than having to create these very kind of standardized texts. So I think actually it does provide opportunities to put more time into kind of more creative work, probably than just disrupting the industry. So I don't see it necessarily as a disruption. And hopefully it will provide opportunities for people to excel in other areas that they're interested in.
I guess the whole kind of phrase being using it to work smarter, not harder, in the right ways, rather than, I think, what a lot of people associate AI kind of having that effect on in different, especially in academics as well.
Sure.
We've had a question come in about the course fees, if you happen to have this knowledge on the top of your head. On our webpage, it gives $11,300 as the estimated annual fee, though that's based on a full-time load.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to pluck a figure out of my head. So that sounds right to me. And as I say, that would be a full-time load, so you can spread that load over a longer time. And it's also possible, I didn't mention before, but the question came up before, whether you need experience to do the course. You don't do that, but if you actually do have experience, you can put that in to waive one of the units. So you one of the introductory units. So you could actually complete the course by only fulfilling 3 units, and that would actually make it obviously a little bit cheaper. So you wouldn't have to do all 4 of the units.
So I believe that was referring to Daniela's question, who asked, is the certificate ideal for students without a work experience or previous studies? That was our first question. But if you do, you could definitely apply for recognition of prior learning, which could,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and therefore the cost. Another question about kind of course fees. Are there government subsidies which could help with the cost of this course specifically?
There aren't government subsidies, but I know that several of our students do get supported by their workplace. So if you are working in a related industry, and that's just about any industry that produces any kind of publication. So you could certainly make an argument to your current employer, if you have one, that if you do this course, it's going to benefit them, and it's going to improve your communication and editing skills. So yes. No government supported positions, but certainly it's worth discussing it if you have an employer to see if they can help you to join us.
Definitely, always worth asking if you can. We've had quite a few questions tonight about kind of people who don't necessarily have experience in the area, who are interested in doing this course. So for the aspiring professionals with almost no publishing or editing experience, but those who are keen to find career opportunities in this area, what would be your advice for them?
Well, if you're looking for experience, I've kind of said this already. I think there are so many opportunities out there to try your hand at editing. So I think you should go for things that interest you, and whether it be helping to build a website and thinking about the text and the layout that will enhance at the best. I mentioned before things like working on perhaps publications to do with clubs or societies you're a member of, doing your own writing and editing. That is always a very useful skill to develop your editing skills, thinking about others' writing as well. So there is so much publishing of all sorts out there that it's very easy, I think, to get involved in it. And it might just be on a kind of informal basis. You could possibly also apply to publishers if you're particularly interested in the publishing in the industry, and apply for internships. So that there certainly are those out there. You might be prepared that you'll have to do that without any payments at the start, but very useful opportunities there as well. So you can dip your toe in all kinds of different areas of publishing, I think, quite easily, and see what interests you before you kind of undertake a course like this, if that's what you'd like to do.
For sure, definitely. I think just seeking that experience wherever it may be and taking those opportunities as they come up. We have a question from Rafal, who asked, can we please share the recording or a link for information about this course? I'm sure we can pop the information link or these course link in the chat, if someone could pop that in there. But if you've signed up for the session, which you're in at the moment, we will send you a recording after the fact. So you will receive a recording shortly, so you can rewatch if you have any further questions. Another question's come through. Is the course content being constantly updated and upgraded as we study, given that the digital publishing industry is so fast evolving?
Yes, certainly. Yes, we're always looking at the content and making sure that it's fresh. In terms of kind of writing about editing and the reading that you do, you'll find that there isn't a huge kind of academic writing about it. So we have to kind of search further afield for the kind of content that you'll be looking at. There was a lot of writing around the time around the turn of the century, really, when people were very concerned about the fact that the book might be about to die, and that everything would happen digitally. And there's been little waves of that ever since. But so some of the actual texts that you'll read won't necessarily be all that new, because they're based around times when the kind of the issue of what was happening to publishing was the hottest topic. So yes, there is lots of updating and lots of new interesting material out there, but we also have these kind of pretty basic standard texts that we go back to that refer to kind of seismic changes in the industry that are kind of standard there as well.
But I'd say that's very similar for a lot of courses as well, that there are things that are very kind of built into the course that remain kind of current, and then also kind of things that are added in as they come along with relevance.
Sure.
Especially looking at graduate certificates, we often have students who are obviously working or have other commitments outside of their studies. Would you be able to tell us a bit about how the flexibility of this unit would work if students can study part-time or online? Like, what's the delivery option like?
So the delivery, it's all online, as I said, the delivery. And I mean, it is kind of structured around the university week, so the weekly activities. But the way that we do it is that we allow students to basically do it at their own pace. So they can, the lectures are pre-recorded. They don't have to attend the lectures at a certain time. And they can do the activities, the reading, the weekly quizzes, the assignments. There are deadlines, so you have to be aware of those. But things like the discussion boards go over several weeks, so you don't have to. So you can kind of plug into those when you've got time to do that. We also, what we try to do is, because it is online, that can kind of create a little bit of a lack of connectivity between the different students. So we do have these regular Zoom sessions where we get together and chat, and we try and make those available at times that are most convenient for the students. So basically we don't timetable those. We ask students when they're free to do that. So we're trying to be as flexible as possible, and to allow people to contribute, because we're very aware of the fact that most people don't have time during the day. Most people are working during the evening or at the weekend, and there is also the flexibility, as I mentioned before, that you can just do one unit per semester, so you're not overloaded. But quite a few of our students have found that they start doing the two units per semester and find it too much. So they drop out of one of them, which is totally fine. We're as flexible as we can be with that. Yes.
Yeah, so you'd say it's a very good design in terms of being able to have a balance between your life or work and studies as well, and you can customize that to how you need it to be. Absolutely,
yes. It's been completely designed in that way, and we're very aware of people having commitments outside their study, because that's the audience that we're going for. Yeah.
Fabulous. I've had a question come in from Zara. They ask, after this course, would I be enrolling in the master's course to become a speech therapist or teach English as a second language? Is this the right course to complete for bachelor's to later become a therapist or a secondary teacher for ESL?
I wouldn't say this course specifically would feed into those topics. It's more designed for people who are interested in going into a career in editing in some way. It's not necessarily people who want to become professional editors as well. So we've got people studying with us who want editing skills to help with their own writing, whether that be creative writing or writing for an academic environment as well. So it certainly helps you get a good knowledge of the kind of things you should be looking at when you're working with text in all kinds of contexts. But yeah, I wouldn't say that it feeds particularly into those particular programs. But I think it is. I would say it's a very useful course to have for all kinds of reasons when you're thinking about writing or communicating in various contexts.
And I'd say for Zara as well, if you are interested in speech pathology and that kind of ends of things, or speech therapy, I'd recommend looking at our speech and hearing sciences or Masters of Speech and Language Pathology as well, just to look at your options. Sure. We have time for probably one more question. Would you say it's viable to start this course in semester 2, or is it intended that the semester 1 units are more introductory?
No, it's not. It can be started in either semester 1 or semester 2, and we've deliberately put kind of foundational units in both of those semesters. So in the first semester, you get the very kind of practical practical skills focused one. So it looks at the basic skills of editors there. And in the start of semester 2, we're looking more around publishing in general, thinking about the history of publishing, the history of communication, the history of media. So that's a kind of the foundational course, foundational unit in semester 2. So definitely we've thought about people entering the course either in semester 1 or 2. So it's possible to come in halfway through the year or at the start of the year. Absolutely no problem.
Sure. So essentially any time is a good time to start.
Yeah, I would say so. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Adam. With that last question, that does bring this session to an end. Thank you so much for sharing your expert knowledge into our graduate certificate of editing and electronic publishing at Macquarie.
Thanks so much, Sienna. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much. For our audience, if we didn't quite get to your question, please feel free to contact our postgraduate team on 02 9850 6791 or email postgraduate@mq.edu.au. We very much look forward to supporting your learning at Macquarie University. Welcome to the session of the Master of Applied Linguistics and TESOL and Graduate Certificate of TESOL. Let's please welcome Associate Professor Philip Chappell and Dr. Agnes Bodis. Phil will be discussing the Master of Applied Linguistics and TESOL, and Aggie will be presenting on the Graduate Certificate of TESOL. Welcome to both of you, and Agnes, I'll hand over to you.
So, hi everyone, my name is Aggie Bodis. I'm the course lead of the Graduate Certificate of TESOL course. I am a lecturer, however, I came to this position from many years of professional experience in teaching English, both as a foreign language, that means teaching English overseas, where English is not spoken as an official language, and English as a second language in Australia. In fact, we have with Phil Chappell, Associate Professor Phil Chappell, who will talk to you about the Master of TESOL. We worked at the same language teaching institution at some point in our careers. Before we start though, can somebody, let's just make it interactive because we like interactive sessions. Can somebody guess or tell me in the chat what TESOL stands for? This is a profession that uses a lot of acronyms, so let's start with the name. Excellent. So Daniela has it. Teaching English to speakers of other languages. It looks like I couldn't find the right chat here. Well done, Daniela. Okay. So, all right. Where can you teach with a TESOL qualification? So I'm going to talk to you about the Graduate Certificate of TESOL first. With any TESOL qualification, really, you can teach in Australia and overseas, as I mentioned. In Australia, you can teach in primary and high schools if you have if you're a qualified teacher, primary or high school teacher. You can become a specialised EALD teacher. Again, here's an acronym for you. It's an English as an additional language or dialect teacher. You can teach in migrant English programs, refugee programs, English language intensive courses for overseas students. There you go. That's another acronym. That's ALICOS colleges. These are all the colleges that cater to international students coming to study English in Australia. They are either attached to a university, for example, doing direct entry programs to universities. So students who would want to do their courses in Australia, in the Australian university, but they need to improve their English, they would do a course before that. Or sometimes they just come to study English for other reasons. Internationally, you can teach in schools, universities, private institutions like language schools, companies. You can do on-site training for certain companies. This is what we call English for specific purposes. And online teaching programs. There are online teaching institutions and companies as well. Okay, let's have a look at our graduate capabilities. So basically, when you start your course with us, you will become a scholar, a practitioner, a citizen, and a professional. And For this level of studies, for the graduate certificate of TESOL, as a scholar, you will need to be skilled and knowledgeable, a skilled and knowledgeable professional who is informed about research relevant to the discipline. So you will be looking at up-to-date current research in TESOL. As a practitioner, you will be an effective multimodal communicator across a range of stakeholders in the academic and professional field of English language teaching. I talked to you about the language teaching context, for example. So we'll be looking at how to teach and who do we need to communicate with in these contexts. As a citizen, you will be an inclusive and culturally respectful practitioner with awareness of local and global issues. As a teacher, it's very important to be sensitive to intercultural communication, and you learn all these with us. As a professional, you're an ethical, reflective, and reflexive professional. So you will be able to use all the things that you've learned, and you will learn all the skills that you need for lifelong learning, basically. Okay, so about the course. The course consists of 4 units, which are 40 credit points. They are face-to-face. They can be done face-to-face. They can be completed face-to-face or online, or a combination. So if you decide to do 1 unit face-to-face because you're free that day, you can come in, and the other units as an external student or an online student, that's fine, or you study everything online or everything face-to-face. It's up to you. You can choose to study full-time or part-time. If you study full-time, it's a 1-semester course. If you study part-time, it's anything from 1 year to 2 years, really, or as long as it takes for you to complete the 4 units. About the units, so TESOL methodologies gives you a foundation skills for language teaching. You will learn about classroom management, feedback, how to teach various language skills, like reading skills, for example. It's done in a highly interactive and enjoyable way, with lots of interaction in class. In fact, one of the assessment tasks in the unit has won various awards for us. And this is the micro-teaching activity. So micro-teaching is basically an activity in which you practice your teaching skills. You teach you teach a group of your peers, basically, and students learn a lot through that. Linguistics and language teaching is the second unit. It helps you learn and apply functional grammar in your teaching, and you will apply the knowledge of phonology, graphology, and appraise language learners in terms of their language use. After that, second language acquisition. So it helps you apply theories of how languages are learned, and you look at factors that influence second language learning. And finally, we've got the practicum unit, practicum in TESOL. This is the unit where you apply all these in an actual classroom with real learners. We do actually visit classrooms in the TESOL methodologies unit as well, and we do observations there, but teaching actual learners happens in the practicum in TESOL unit. So you take a placement you do a placement in an English language teaching institution and demonstrate your professional readiness. Now, the academic staff, all of us are experienced TESOL practitioners, as I mentioned earlier, and we are all active in TESOL research. Oh, that's right. So we also have high employability focus. So you develop skills through learning activities that will help you in your career. As I mentioned, for example, the micro-teaching activity, if you film yourself, quite often you can actually use these videos for finding a job as well, because quite often you need to you need to submit maybe a video of your teaching, some proof of your teaching for job applications. But even other assessment tasks, we have created assessment tasks that are authentic and emulate the kind of activities that you do in your teaching, in your career. And we focus on continuing professional development as well. And the units have been created through industry consultation as well. Now, why would you like to become an ESL or EFL teacher? What is so good about it? You can support migrants in Australia if you choose to stay in Australia. If you choose to move overseas, this is the kind of skill and career path that can take you anywhere, really. So you can live in and experience a different culture overseas. You can learn a new language while you're overseas. Look, you can learn an essential lifelong and transferable skill. I have to say that all these skills of supporting learners you can use in other areas of your life as well. You can grow through the interaction with diverse learners, and you can start a career path with many possibilities. So it can lead you to maybe assessment development, materials design, curriculum design, school management, and so on. So this is my bit, and I'll just stop sharing, and I hand over the floor to Phil.
Thanks, Aggie. You know, listening to Aggie presenting just then took me back. Would you believe, 30 years to when I did a short course very similar to the one that Aggie just described, and it was after I'd been working in another industry, and I was getting pretty dissatisfied with that. So for various reasons, I decided to become an English language teacher. So I did that course, and 30 years later, here I am presenting on the Masters in Applied Linguistics and TESOL at Macquarie. In the meantime, that course enabled me to teach in Northern Africa, in Southeast Asia. I then went on and did my Masters, and I was able to become a trainer of teachers when I was working in Southeast Asia, and then a head of centre, a head of an English language centre in Southeast Asia, and then I came back to Australia and I was a director of studies, and I finally moved into working on my doctoral studies, and then came into Macquarie University. So I think what I'm saying is that this is a real pathway here, that what Aggie just presented to you is an entry-level qualification. Or if you're already in English language teaching and you want to upgrade your qualification but not go all the way into a master's, then the graduate certificate's a great course. But then after working after being an English language teacher for a while, you develop different interests, and you start asking more questions like I did, and you think, well, okay, I need to study more. And so that's what the Master of Applied Linguistics and TESOL is all about, is for either people who've been in English language teaching and have got some experience and want to learn more, or people who want to really start as an English language teacher but get a much broader entry-level qualification. So rather than just doing a graduate certificate, we'll do the whole Masters. So let me share my screen and talk a little bit about Master of Applied Linguistics and TESOL. I'm sure most people here have actually looked at the information on our website, so I'll go through it fairly quickly so that we can move into questions. So the Master of Applied Linguistics and TESOL is a teaching qualification. And so it's a qualification for people who are interested in teaching in a variety of contexts that Aggie went through. And for people who are teaching in the school sector, if you already have a qualification to teach in the school sector, then this qualification gives you more a higher qualification to teach English and to teach culture and linguistically diverse students. We cover both theory and methodological issues. We have a particular focus on TESOL, but we are broad in that we talk about other applied linguistics applications. When you study the course, you develop understandings of the complex relations between language use and context in educational and professional settings. And you also apply this understanding to the teaching and learning of languages. They're not only English, but we're focused mainly on English. The degree is valued by major TESOL employers in Australia and internationally. We've been running it for many, many years now, and we've got graduates pretty much in every continent around the world. We've got graduates in many different countries around the world, and we keep in touch with our graduates. We've got a big alumni network. For example, Aggie's going to go up to Japan later on this year and meet with about 40 or 50 of our alumni at the Japan Association of Language Teaching Conference. Key features of the course is that it allows you to study with one of the largest and most diverse linguistics departments in Australia. We've got 4 major research centres. We're very highly ranked among linguistics in the world, and we're very big and diverse. And so what you're learning when you're taking your individual subjects or units in the Master of Applied Linguistics is a lot of the research that we're doing. So we're applying our research, and you're learning from the cutting edge knowledge that we're developing. You've got flexible study options. We've got students who come on campus for one unit, study the other one online, and some people who decide to come on campus for a few classes and study other classes online in the same unit or subject. So we're very flexible in that setting. And it's an internationally relevant and highly regarded qualification. Who should apply for this course? Well, experienced teachers wanting a recognised TESOL qualification, and prospective teachers wishing to enter the field of TESOL. So it's both an entry-level course, because if you come in as a novice or a new English language teacher, the first thing you'll do is do the Graduate Certificate of TESOL units, which we call the foundational units for the Master of Applied Linguistics and TESOL. So if you're experienced, you'll skip those units and you'll come in and do a shorter course. The entry level is for people who are both experienced or have a recognised TESOL qualification, or anybody with a bachelor degree in a relevant field and an interest in applied linguistics and English language teaching. So, for example, in our intake for semester 1 this year, we've got a range of students from those who've never taught English before but are really interested, those who are very experienced language teachers who are taking a much shorter 1-year degree. And so what makes it really interesting in the classes is that people who've never taught before are interacting with experienced language teachers. So not only learning from us, but learning from each other about their experiences as language teachers. Career opportunities are similar to what Aggie mentioned. You're able to teach in a variety of Australian and overseas English language contexts, including the AMEP program in Australia. And I might add, since COVID has left us pretty much alone, the English language teaching sector in Australia is booming back to life, and is actually crying out for teachers, because a lot of teachers left the sector during COVID when things went very quiet. Our international student numbers pretty much dried up. And so there are massive opportunities for people to do our qualification and then teach in the Australian Migrant English program, to teach in ELICOS courses, which are for adult international students who come to Australia and want to learn English in the private language colleges that are all through all of our major cities. And overseas language colleges for all kinds of learners, young, adolescent, and adult learners. And you can also work as a teacher assistant in schools. For example, in Japan, we have a lot of our graduates work as teaching assistants. The requirements, there are so many diverse contexts for English language teaching that it's difficult to actually nail down exactly what you would be doing in a particular country. Also, a lot of our graduates work in companies overseas. For example, maybe a major bank in Vietnam, for example, might privately hire an English language teacher for 1 or 2 years to develop English language programs for their staff. So for their service staff, you might be teaching the staff different ways to provide service to customers in polite, respectful ways. You might be teaching English for accountants or English for marketing and sales people. And if you take our course, you can actually take units such as English for academic purposes and English for specific purposes that equip you to be able to develop lessons and develop programs for those kind of students. Okay, so the course is 1.5 or 2 years, depending on how you present yourself when you apply and your experience and qualifications. It's full or part-time, and you can switch between full-time and part-time. It's internal, meaning you come on campus and come to our weekly classes, or it's external online, or it's a mixture of both. You can commence in each session. Our foundation units are offered in each semester, so you can start in each semester, and the fees are right there. What you'll learn 3 major areas: knowledge about language, and we've got units such as linguistics and language teaching, which I happen to teach, pragmatics and intercultural communication. So this is, you'll develop your knowledge about language so that you can apply that knowledge to helping your English language learners develop their ability to use language. You'll also learn knowledge about language learning, and we've got units such as second language acquisition and language testing and evaluation that focus on how students learn a language and how we can evaluate and assess their learning. You'll also learn knowledge about language teaching, and that's especially so in the foundation level units with a graduate certificate of TESOL. But as I mentioned, we've also got units and subjects such as teaching English for academic purposes, teaching English for specific purposes, language teaching and learning beyond the classroom. So you can study a unit on how to support your students when they're not in class, but outside in the real world, how they can go about learning language. Right, so that's the information.
Thank you so much to both of you for sharing so much information about both of your courses. We've actually had quite a few questions come in, so we'll get straight into the Q&A. One of our anonymous attendees has asked that they previously completed the graduate certificate in TESOL in 2015 at Macquarie University, but they've not worked in the industry since that time. If they were to enter the Master of Applied Linguistics in TESOL, would they be entitled to any unit credit, so recognition of prior learning, or are their previous studies too far back?
The previous studies are not too far back. We generally consider about 10 years as being the cutoff point, but I'd encourage that that person to get in touch with me, and we can talk about that and find out what your strengths are and the relevance of what you've studied in 2015, and what but we can certainly apply recognition for prior learning. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And always, we usually say with these questions, feel free to contact us because it's just easier to ask on the individual case by case
absolutely
basis.
Yeah.
Another question that's come in anonymously is, outside of TESOL, where can the Master of Applied Linguistics and TESOL take you career-wise? Are there any internships available to students?
We don't have internships, but through our practicum, so you can take a practicum in the graduate certificate of TESOL, and you can take a master's practicum. You spend most of your semester at an English language college, and a lot of our graduates who successfully complete their practicum, which is most of them, some of them actually end up working for the colleges where they did their practicum in. So that's a kind of internship. But I think the question was a little bit about non-TESOL.
Yeah, there was, so outside of TESOL, so what are kind of other pathways that you've seen your kind of graduates go through? Okay,
and there's a whole host of pathways. In fact, if you have a look at the course information on the website, you'll see a whole list of their communication specialist in companies. That's certainly a big area. I might pass over to Aggie, who might have a couple of other examples.
I was just thinking about not internships, but for example, in language testing, I convened the unit for language testing, and the new unit design basically enables students to get in touch with the industry, so and explore possibilities in language assessment and language testing. Yeah, I've outside of TESOL as well, like actual teaching. I think I've seen someone, other students. What is it that? Sorry, I just forgot. Definitely for companies. So when it comes to the business sector, so doing language related work like communication specialist, as Phil has mentioned before.
And also in non-teaching areas, things like public relations, media relations, marketing, advertising. Yeah.
Yeah, I think someone added in the chat as well that the Department of Defence is looking for TESOL background teachers who aren't necessarily going to teach in those roles as well. So I guess it's in demand in industry, even if it's not necessarily in that exact role that you may expect as the typical one.
As I mentioned, there's a lot of transferable skills. So a lot of people who are trained in TESOL and might end up in like learning design as well. I think that's another area, like, or education design, that can mean online courses, or maybe for institutions or companies. They all have learning designers for working in their HR departments. Yeah.
Yes, the sky's the limit, essentially.
Yeah.
Maria asks, is there space for exchange study in either of your courses? Whoever would
Yes,
like
there is. We've actually got partners in various countries where you can actually go overseas and do your practicum. For example, one of the biggest universities in Thailand, Mahidol University, will take you in and you can do your practicum in their international college.
Yeah, fabulous. Aggie, did you have anything to add to that one, or?
I wouldn't. No, the practicum is where there is space for that. Yes, that's right.
For sure. Christian asks that they know that this course is centered on English, but can the knowledge gained in this program also apply cross-linguistically, that is, to teaching other languages?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a language teaching qualification. We focus on English, but if you've got a knowledge of other languages, then you can definitely. And we've had teachers of French, teachers of Italian. And probably other languages that they haven't actually told us about that have done our course. So definitely, Christian.
Yeah.
Also in our assessment tasks, we give the choice in units that we have in the master's course. For example, the curriculum assessment units. You have the choice to actually respond to the assessment task through another language teaching context, so not necessarily English. Yes.
Awesome. I think we have time for just one more question. An anonymous attendee asks, is completing an undergraduate course in education necessary or a prerequisite? Would I be able to apply for this with a bachelor's in linguistics and language sciences?
Yeah, so if you have a what we call a relevant undergraduate degree, which is the Bachelor of Linguistics and Language Sciences or a Bachelor of Education, then you'll actually get some recognition for prior learning. So you won't, if you would like recognition for prior learning, so you can come in and have to do a shorter course. But for people who have a non-relevant undergraduate degree, so long as it's an undergraduate degree, you can start with us and do the full 2-year course.
Yeah, fabulous. Well, thank you so much. With that last question, that does bring this session to the end. Thank you, both of you, so much for sharing your insights on our Master of Applied Linguistics and TESOL and Graduate Certificate of TESOL and Macquarie. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Sienna, and good night to everybody.
Thank you so much. And for our audience, if we didn't quite get to your question, you can contact our postgraduate team on 02 9850 6791 or email postgraduate@mq.edu.au. We very much look forward to supporting your learning at Macquarie University. Welcome to the session on Macquarie's Master of Conference Interpreting and Master of Translation and Interpreting Studies. I'm pleased to introduce you to our academic experts, Dr. Jing Feng and Mr. Xie Ye. Mr. Ye will be discussing the Master of Conference Interpreting and Dr. Fang will be presenting on the Master of Translation and Interpreting Studies. Welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sienna.
Good evening. Jing, please.
Dr. Fang, I think we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to share my slides.
For sure. Enjoy the session.
All right. Okay, so hi everyone, good evening. My name is Jing Fan. I'm a lecturer from the Translation and Interpreting program at Macquarie University. Today, my colleague Sydney and I will be talking about the courses we offer at Macquarie. So when it comes to translators and interpreters, probably many people will have the first question in mind would be like, so what do you guys do? Well, translators and interpreters, to put it simply, we are just the communicators. So we work with different languages and we facilitate cross-cultural communications between people speaking different languages. And in our profession, generally, our practice can fall into two categories. So some people work as a translator and some people work as an interpreter. And of course, there are also many people working as both translator and an interpreter. So translators, basically, they work with written documents. So they translating something in writing, and some people specialize in translating from their B language into their A language. So A language is usually your first language, the language that you are best at, and B language is probably a language that you acquire later. And as a translator, you can be a literary translator. That means you translate novels, science fictions, for example. You can also be a legal translator. Say you specialize in translating legal documents like contracts and wills. And some people also specialize in medical and texts. So as the other major category in our profession is interpreting. So interpreters, they work with spoken language typically, but of course we also have people working between English and the sign language. So interpreters naturally, they work with both language directions, so between A and B languages. And there are different modes of interpreting in our profession. So in Australia, probably if you go to a courthouse or you go to a hospital, you will see a lot of, we say, community interpreters, and they work as dialogue interpreter. So they are on site, or sometimes they could also provide remote dialogue interpreting, just in a setting like what we are now, or where we are now on the Zoom meeting, where a video conferencing interpreting is very common because of COVID. And we also have consecutive interpreting. So this particular type as like different from dialogue, because dialogue basically also involves consecutive, but sometimes you get a speakers deliver a speech. It's a one-way speech to a group of audience, and then the speaker may speak for a while and stops, and then the interpreter would take over and interpret into the other language. And after finishing the interpreting, the interpreter will hand over back to the speaker. So that's consecutive mode. But perhaps the most exciting interpreting mode that many people see on movies especially would be the simultaneous interpreting, where you get to see, like, for example, in the United Nations Assembly, interpreters working in booths, and they provide interpreting while a speaker is giving a speech. So all these are happening at the same time. And of course, it's very, very challenging because interpreters need to do multiple tasks at the same time. So our graduates, there are a lot of opportunities for them to work in various environments and settings. So you get to see interpreters working in court, so they are court interpreters. You get to see people working in the public service or community settings like hospital, healthcare interpreters. They work at school, interpreting at parent-teacher interviews. And you get to see interpreters accompanying national leaders visiting another country. So sometimes they appear on TV. And during COVID, you probably also noticed Auslan, that sign language interpreters standing next to the premier, giving the daily press conference, and many of them are actually our graduates. And of course, you get conference interpreters working in many international conferences. There are two major organizations or bodies in our profession, in the Australian context, I mean. So we have NATI, so that's National Accreditation Authority for Translators and Interpreters. If you want to practice as a professional translator or interpreter, you probably will need to get a credential, and this credential is issued by NATI. And then we also have a professional association called AUSIT. So this is the Australian Institute for TNI. TNI, by the way, refers to translation and interpreting, but here it refers to translators and interpreters. So this is our professional association. So I want to emphasize one thing, that is TNI, so our program or our courses, we are not only about language studies, we are not a course about language learning. Rather, as I said, we are communicators. So that means nowadays, thanks to the development of technology, the world is constantly changing. People change their ways of communication, and then our courses are constantly adapting to the new reality. So this means that our course, we train our students in terms of various aspects of the practice of translation and interpreting, so that our graduates can meet the current market expectations. To do that, we offer units that are theory units. We also offer, of course, professional practical units for various contexts. And we also teach students to use the cutting-edge translation tools, technology. We also train our students for interpreting in various modes, the modes that I just talked about. And of course, on top of the theory units, practical units, we also offer research units because we are a postgraduate program. So each year we also have a small number of people after finishing our TNI program, they want to pursue a higher degree in research, and that's also possible through doing these research units. So in here, like on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see a few pictures. So we have two translation labs. And these two translation labs, as you can see on the top, these two pictures. So these computers in the lab, they are equipped with specific translation software. So our students they can translate the text using these computers, and then these using the very popular translation memory tools such as MemSource, Traders. And of course, they can also do many other things like translating subtitles, so which is a type of audiovisual translation, and that is also done in these labs. And apart from the translation labs, we also have a very modern conference interpreting lab, so which is the picture in the middle. You can see we have five soundproof booths. So students stay in the booth and provide simultaneous interpreting in a variety of contexts. Very similar to what the conference interpreters are doing for the United Nations. And we also have, currently we're preparing for another lab, which is for the remote interpreting. So in our program, we offer 5 courses. So we have a 1-year graduate diploma course. And we also have a 1.5-year Master of TNI. And some people would like to extend to 2-year program, and then you can choose to do Master of Advanced TNI, or you can also choose to do a Master of Conference Interpreting. We offer 5 different spoken languages to be paired with English in terms of translation and interpreting. So they are Chinese, and if it is interpreting, it's Mandarin Chinese, and translation, French and Japanese, Korean, Spanish. On top of these 5 spoken languages, we also offer Auslan, so that's Australian Sign Language, and to be paired with English. So for people doing the 1-year postgraduate diploma, or people doing a 1.5-year master program, they can also choose a pathway of doing translation only specialization. And so we know that some domestic students, they are probably very competent in reading and writing in their B language, but they may not be ready for speaking the B language. If that's you, then you have the option of choose to do translation specialization only without doing interpreting. And some other advantages of doing our course would be that our courses are fully endorsed by NATI. So that means our graduates, after finishing the course, you can go to sit for the NATI certification test. And our Master of Conference Interpreting program is also featured on the school directory of IEC. IEC is the most prestigious international association of conference interpreters, and we also have 2 staff members, including Sini, who are the IEC members. Not many TNI programs in the world are on the school's directory of IEC, but we are one of them. And we are also a member of SUTI. SUTI is the International Association of Tertiary TNI Institutions. So it's actually quite difficult to become a SUTI member. And there are only 2 TNI programs in Australia who are SUTI members, and we are one of them. We also offer a number of CSP places. So that's the Commonwealth supported place for domestic students. And they are available for domestic students doing graduate diploma course and our 1.5-year master degree course. Okay. Oops. Yeah, so I said that our courses are very flexible, so people can enter a program from different entry points depending on your situation. But whether you are interested in doing a 1.5-year Master of TNI, or a 2-year Master of TNI, or a 2-year Master of Conference Interpreting program, most of people will do the same course in the first year. So that will finish the graduate diploma course. And some people, after starting 2 years with us, they figure out that the original master that they enrolled is probably not the most suitable one, and they want to transfer to another master degree in TNI, which is possible if you meet certain criteria. So it's very flexible. It's never too late to choose your pathway. And on top of these courses, people can also choose to do a double master degree courses. So our TNI master degree courses can be paired with 2 majors. So you can also choose to do a Master of Applied Linguistics and TESOL paired with TNI, or Master of International Relations paired with TNI. Okay. All right. So that's all from me in introducing the master degree programs in translation and interpreting. And now I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Sini, and Sini is going to talk a little bit more about a Master of Conference Interpreting course. And this is the most popular course in our program. Here you go, Sini.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jing. Good evening, everyone. I do wish to start by thanking Jing for the very detailed introduction. I think Jing has been just way too modest by not disclosing a couple of personal details. I should say, Jing has been serving as a NATI examiner for a long time, so you can tell that is, a good reflection of the strength of the course. I only recently joined the examiners panel, so I think what I can say is that if you choose to learn TNI with us, rest assured you are going to be in good hands. With the Master of Conference Interpreting, our brief early touch upon what we do. So basically, this is a 2-year course that you are able to apply to join, as soon as you finish your undergraduate studies, and then you are determined or you are interested in pursuing a degree that is focused on interpreting alone. So this is where we focus on both consecutive and simultaneous interpreting skills as well as techniques. So as Jing has mentioned, we offer 5 languages paired with English as part of our ongoing teaching curriculum. And so, as I can see, someone was asking, about the languages. I can, as you can see on the screen, we paired Chinese Mandarin, French, Japanese, Korean, and Spanish with English. So, on one of those pictures you have seen earlier, you can see we do run truly multilingual mock conference sessions for students during the 2nd year of their MCI, which is the Master of Conference Interpreting course. So that provides a very unique perspective, so that you are there to communicate, to facilitate communication. So Jing has mentioned that we do have a dedicated, and purpose-built conference interpreting lab. So these 5 booths, as you see on the right-hand side of this slide, these are all ISO compliant. And also, as she has mentioned earlier, we are probably one of the first, tertiary institutions in Australia to have established an RSI lab, that is a remote simultaneous interpreting lab. So this is a lab where we are going to train our students with not only skills that are required to perform simultaneous, but also to partner with colleagues, both online but also on site. Because increasingly, as we have seen during the pandemic, more and more meetings are being held online, and more delegates are attending to meetings from all over the world. And that is actually something we, as a course, has been adapting to. So that takes me to the last bit on this one. So we do, adapt ourselves to the changing realities, and also, using new technologies. It has become some kind of a motto, over the past few years, that nothing really prepares you better for reality than reality. So whatever we, as interpreters especially, do in the field, we try to instill that in our weekly, daily, monthly teaching and learning activities. So our graduates, when they reach the market with either a simple, I shouldn't say simple, but with a not so challenging consecutive interpreting assignment, or with a highly technical simultaneous assignment, they would know they have been trained and they know what to do in order to do a good job. Jing, if you can please take me to the next slide. All right, so this is basically to tell you again, who we are, what we do. I guess many prospective students are keen to understand who will be, teaching the courses. I think what I can advise everyone is that, all our courses, especially the MCI courses, are taught by ANATI certified conference interpreters and all AIC members. So I had the privilege of joining AIC recently, and our program director, Professor Mark Orlando, has been also a long-standing member of AIC. So rest assured that we uphold the highest possible international standards when it comes to conference interpreting, teaching, and learning. Oh, yeah, sorry, this is a replicate from Jing's slide, but I think I'm going to skip that. Lastly, I should say that for those who are interested in pursuing your study in the MCI course, you are able to apply for what we call RPL, that is recognition of your prior learning. We would have to assess your circumstances on a case-by-case basis. For some students, you may be able to receive a credit of up to 1 year. So, for example, if someone who has completed a translation and interpreting qualification, postgraduate level qualification in Australia, upon assessment, we may decide to award you with a credit of up to 1 year, which means you just need to complete the 2nd year course of MCI. once you have, as you pass all the units, you should be able to receive your MCI degree. The pictures, I'll quickly mention the pictures because I think, as the saying goes, that a picture is louder than 1,000 words. I'll start from the left one. So this is, taken from the media. I did, seek consent from my colleague and also my good friend Xing, who is a IEC member based in Beijing. So this is, the visit by the Minister for Trade, Minister Farrow, during his visit to Beijing, talking to his Chinese counterpart. And the lady on the left-hand side of the picture is Xing, who is a graduate from the MCI course in 2006. So on their way up to the conference room. Since this is a picture that is publicly available, so I guess I'm comfortable sharing this picture. The one in the middle is simply taken from one of our interpreting booths. So this is where students work day in and day out to sharpen, to hone, and also to consolidate their interpreting skills and also use of interpreting strategies to make them true to the name of conference interpreters. The last one, as you can see, we have multiple people in the picture. This is where our teaching staff and also our past graduates working together. This is a conference last year held in Brisbane in September for the United Nations Office of Disaster Reduction and Risk Prevention. So the UNDRR Convention 2022. So you can see, I'll start from the left. So the second from the left is Professor Orlando, who is an English-French conference interpreter. And then the second lady from the left is my colleague and good friend, Dallas Huang, who is teaching the MCI course as well. The two gentlemen, sorry, I'm the guy who is standing to the far right. And then the two gentlemen standing next to me are our fine graduates. But they're both from the 2012 cohort. Both of them are now working as professional conference interpreters in Sydney and Australia. And then the last guy is me. So if you do choose to learn, study for conference interpreting with us, so me and Dallas and of course Jing and other colleagues will be familiar faces. So I guess this would be the end of the MCI. And then lastly, if I may quickly mention, the TNI, as a whole.
This one, right?
Or Jing, would you rather do that yourself or?
No, you go, Sydney.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, I think for those who are sort of hesitant or not sure as whether TNI is a career for you, I guess you can use this one as a basic checklist to see if this is really something that I'm interested in or something I'm passionate about to make a decent career. So we do expect our students to have a strong interest in your own language, or should I say your own languages. So your language A, which is your mother tongue, is really something you should take great pride in. And then your language B, which is often your first acquired language. This is something that you will be working a lot harder on, I should say, especially as you get on with your learning activities at TNI. And also we expect our future colleagues to be press eaters. That is, people who are keen to follow what happens around the world as reported in the media. And also we expect people to be curious, to become someone who knows something about everything, and hopefully everything about something, meaning you are able to become a specialist in certain fields. So remain open, remain curious. And as Jim mentioned, that we do expect our students to engage in a lot of intensive and extensive reading and listening and speaking, of course, and writing. So these 4 basic skills that have to do with language learning will be something that we pay a lot of attention to. And technology is something we all have been and will continue to embrace in the coming years and the decades. So if you are someone who is open to new technology, who is keen to make use of new technology to facilitate either translation or interpreting or both, I suggest you get in touch with us. And also, we expect people to be able to make decisions on their toes, which means you are able to make decisions, in circumstances that require often quick response or quick action. And lastly, we expect people to be interested in both the theory and the practice. I think I should say I know that people are naturally interested more in practice, not so much on theory. But I should say theory does help with your practice in either translation or interpreting. So do pay attention to theory. It's going to be a very strong helping hand. The last column, this is our inquiry email box. So if you've got any questions in relation to TNI, feel free to shoot us a message and we will be returning to your query in due course. Am I good with my time? Jing, back to you. Thank you.
Okay, so we seem to have a few questions here.
Yeah, we do. I'll just thank you both so much for joining us and sharing your expert knowledge on your courses. We have a few Q&A questions that have come through at the bottom of the chat box. If you have any questions, you can pop those there. I believe based on the Master of Translation and Interpreting Studies, an anonymous attendee has asked, translators and interpreters are two different occupations. So can this degree prepare us to be eligible for both careers?
Okay, I'll go first, Sydney, if you don't mind. Yeah, so yes, of course. Actually, I think a large part of our cohort, or in the past, our large number of our graduates, when they graduated with both the specialization of both translation and interpreting. Only a small number of people, they realized that perhaps, translation is not for me, or interpreting is not for me, and then they may choose. But we offer only translation only pathway because it looks like when those people who are good at interpreting, they naturally will also pick up translation as well. So yeah, it's very common to have both. Yeah.
Fabulous. And I think we have time. I think I have time for one last question. Are both of your courses strictly online?
Oh, no, we don't offer online courses, unfortunately. Sydney, if I'm right, I think that we only offer online courses for Auslan interpreter program.
Yeah, I think Auslan used to be online, especially, apologies, during the pandemic. But I think they're now gradually returning to more intensive block teaching and learning. So they do have an online module, but then they are doing what I understand to be block teaching and learning.
Yeah, but apart from Auslan, all our other, as I mentioned, we have 5 spoken languages paired with English. So for the other spoken languages, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, French, and Spanish, we only offer face-to-face training because in our profession, it's very important. We are so practical. We need people to be in the classroom, and then we can discuss the detailed techniques and the skills. Interpreting and training, especially interpreting training, if you offer it online, there are a lot of things that it's very hard for people to understand when we talk about skills like note-taking, the use of technology, and the paralanguage, the discourse management skills. Many discourse management skills are actually applied to face-to-face settings. So we do need people to come to class every week.
For sure. The student who asked that question as well commented that they actually prefer in person. So they're happy with that answer.
That's great. Yeah.
Well, with that last question, that does bring our Macquarie University Postgraduate Showcase for Linguistics webinar to an end. Thank you so much to the both of you tonight for your insights.
Thank you so much, Sienna, for organizing this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
For our attendees, coming up soon are our postgraduate consultations between the 5th to the 16th of June. If we didn't quite get to your question, or if this session has left you wanting to find out more about our postgraduate courses, you can book a one-on-one consultation with our team through the link in your email or scan the QR code to book your preferred time slot. The postgraduate team are available for all your coursework inquiries, and you can contact us on 02 9850 6791 or email postgraduate@mq.edu.au. We very much look forward to supporting your career at Macquarie University. Take care and good night. Thanks, everyone.